Yeah, this is my shedio, is what my friend calls it. This reminds me of my dad's basement growing up. He had this very crazy workshop, and I would go down and play around in it, so I think the chaos has spilled over into my space a little bit. Yeah, I have all these objects that just follow me around, you know, and since a lot of what I do is like collaging objects together, I think it kind of helps to have a chaotic environment because you'll find things around you, like, you know, just random objects that are around you that you can connect to other objects. Sometimes it drives me crazy, but there's times when the chaos is good, I guess, good for the creative process. So.
It's very interesting because when I think of your work, I see so much order and so much kind of intentionality.
Right.
And I don't think of it as chaotic.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering did you steal the shopping cart?
This one was like a block away on the side of the street. There's a giant nearby. Yeah, so like I'll get one part of a sculpture working and then like a base working, but I don't have anything to connect it together. So that's why, you know, you'll find something in a box that you've been with you for a long time, and it's always fun. Once you get something going, I feel like there's always that one object that you need, and sometimes you just pull it out, you know. Like I have this thing that I've been trying to figure out what to do with. I mean, it's just a lazy Susan, but at some point I feel like it's gonna come into play, but I don't know when. Actually, what I like about it is like it makes you look at random objects a lot differently, like things that you find on the ground or things at the hardware store. You think about how each thing has like its own logic and its own like function, and so when you start linking things together, you can think of them like misusing them for the wrong purpose. Yeah, I feel like that just working in that way has made me like kind of like look at my surroundings differently.
Can you talk a little bit about like what the implications of things that are found on the street? Kind of why are you attracted to that?
I feel like I'm always going back to the street. You know, like I'll have a gallery show, but I have to like make an object that I can push around in the street. It's real life. I mean, it's about sort of opening. Like I said before, it's about opening your perception to appreciate all the little things that are going on around you. Your commute to work isn't just about getting to a destination if you appreciate all these things that are happening. As a culture, we make these objects, right? And they all have function. And so much of that, like, I think spinning is really interesting because it's like motors are, you know, one of the first things we realized that we could do. Obviously the wheels are like a really early invention. But then being able to make something spin, right, just makes all these possibilities happen, like the car, the plane, I guess a lot of these projects kind of came out of like just trying to use that act of spinning to like make a drawing. I feel like each material in each creation has its own like algorithm that you can kind of tap into when you link it up with some other material. So my mom had her hip replaced, and she had a walker, and she couldn't. She needed a basket on the front of it. And so I got some zip ties, and I went to the hardware store, and I like created this sort of makeshift basket structure on the walker, you know, but it fit. So I got so excited about it because it fit like perfectly onto the walker, and it was like those two objects were just made for each other, but nobody had ever put them together. I've always enjoyed like just putting random objects together and sort of seeing what
Would
happens.
that be your critique of Duchamp?
Yeah, right. Certainly Duchamp is part of it because it's I think we all owe something to that sort of mentality of like looking at the mundane objects like toilet bowls as art, but at the same time I think you're right that the fact that it's utilitarian, that it's not only a joke. You know what I mean? They're kind of silly and funky, but they're not but they also achieve something. They're not just a mental game. Like he was so good at making these like these chess moves in the art game, right? And I feel like mine are more maybe towards some process, or maybe it's about like exteriorizing a process, like the act of drawing. How do you make a machine that will make that drawing, you know, rather than me making the drawing? Someone else told me that I was making these really elaborate recording devices, you know, that they're just basically peripheral events like wind currents or someone walking by, you know, things that we don't notice, basically.
So what you're doing, you're kind of giving up your authorship as this is your hand making the drawing.
Right.
So you're making this sort of other device, but you're still making it that makes the drawing.
Well, I would never make the drawings that are produced. I would never be selfless enough to make those kind of, like if I wanted to draw a wind current, I would never pay that close attention and be able to move my pen at that, you know, in direct reaction to the wind, you know.
So is it just the precision?
But it's not just precision, because no matter what you do, what I realized in making these things is that everything you do, like every piece, every linkage, and like I said, it influences the final product, right? So the diameter of like the hubcap that you're stringing things from completely changes the way the drawing looks, and on and on and on.
The final product is the actual drawing. Or is it not?
I think the real experience for me is if the viewer can watch the drawing being made in real time, and then it's about that temporality of like your time expanding or contracting as you look at that at the drawing being made in real time. The drawings always feel like sort of dead objects to me. They feel like remnants, or I mean, they're recordings basically, right? So they no longer are connected to the event. They're abstractions. So we've learned as a culture to read abstract images in a certain way. So if they're colorful and they have a certain pattern, people react to them first, you know? But I also like to kind of play with that so that you're maybe you're drawn into looking at something because of the colors and the patterns. And you might make assumptions about sort of...
Have you ever tried making something non-attractive or like intentionally ugly or bland, or something that wouldn't be luscious, beautiful abstractions?
I think that's where I'm going next, is more maybe less colorful and less I don't know, less art-like, because I feel like the end product does have this strange relationship in that it looks like a piece of art, you know, and it would be interesting to make something that doesn't look like art.
Do you think it's possible?
I think it's possible. I don't know if I'd get a gallery show out of it.
You started with the balloons.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And then you made the simple drawing machines that were responding to mechanical sort of coding in them.
Yeah.
Right? And then you started doing the responding to the wind currents and elements in nature of doing work.
Yeah.
So a good question to be like, how are you challenging yourself in your practice?
So the latest work, or the one that just installed, is more based on code and triggering from sensors to make a reaction. So, you know, it was a sonar sensor that would change the way a musical arrangement was played depending on where someone was standing. Viewers seem to react more strongly to the works that are less sophisticated technically. So if like the Sharpie pieces, the conversations I had with people, they liked the fact that it looked like a hand was drawing it, you know, or because it was actually just the wind moving something, right? So it had this very direct connection between the movement and the mark. Whereas
it's kind of like, I can do it.
Yeah.
I understand it.
Right. Yeah. But also there's something in the actual mark that feels somehow connected to nature or something like that, you know?
So every time you have a viewer interaction with your work, they become a part of the viewer becomes a part of the actual installation.
Right. You know, everyone's on the street trying to get somewhere most of the time. You know, they seem like they're trying to get somewhere, but then they stop and they give up all this time to kind of interact, and that's exciting to me. That's sort of more exciting than, you know, the gallery viewer. I'm happy that they'll come in and interact, but they're already sort of almost signing a contract that they're going to interact with art when they come and they understand. So if you can make that happen on the street, somehow it seems like, I don't know if it's more valuable, but it just seems
more honest.
Yeah, yeah.
Being there on the street with your piece and having people interact with it, in contrast of being in the studio and making something, or gallery space where people just kind of interacting and you're kind of hands off.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on these things?
Well, I try not to place one over the other in terms of hierarchy. I mean, if I had to choose one, it would probably be the street, just because it just feels so sort of salt of the earth. Like you'll get any kind of viewer, you know. You're not just selecting the viewers that go to the gallery. But I want to make work that will read on all those different levels, because I think the gallery offers things that the street doesn't, right? I mean, it's a quieter, more contemplative space. Maybe it makes more time for a more sophisticated interaction, in that it's, you know, you can control all aspects of it. Walking anywhere, you know, you have so many impressions, and I think that there's a lot to feed off of there.
Is your work a commentary on?
certainly it's a commentary on, or just trying to get us to look at how we live and how we move through space, how we inhabit. Like, I think we all just kind of go do our thing. We don't think about it, you know. So it's almost like trying to interrupt that.
Society expects you to be, you know, cooking dinner and washing dishes and watching children and making sure that they do what they need to do. But
right.
how can you resist this as an artist and as a mother and as a human being that
right.
has like a full plate of these things?
Resistance is healthy, but I also think that art makes me think about the really mundane things in a different way too. So like washing dishes becomes more interesting if you're, I don't know, thinking about it, you know, or being aware of what you're doing instead of just trying to get it done, right? And I think like that's where the shopping cart became interesting to me, because it's like this crazy object that was built specifically to fill with like just the right amount of groceries for a family, right? But it's something we don't pay attention to at all, you know. It's just sort of like, oh, let me get that shopping cart, let me fill it, you know. We only look at the objects that we put in the shopping cart.